Hi guys, how you doing? My name is Crystal and welcome to my YouTube channel. It is Thursday morning. Good morning. I'm here in Rochester and yes, I am tired. I'm a little sore with my face. Alexa, good morning.
Good morning. Today is World Poetry Day. Why not ask me what my favourite poem is, or my favourite limerick?
Alexa, what's your favourite limerick?
My favourite limerick is, there was a young man from Peru, whose limerick stopped at line 2.
Oh my God. Alexa, what's the time please?
It's 8:28 a.m.
Alexa, what's the date today?
It's Thursday the 21st of March.
Alexa, what's the weather outlook?
Right now in Rochester, it's 9 degrees Celsius with mostly sunny skies. Today's forecast has cloudy skies, with a high of 15 degrees and a low of 9 degrees.
Alexa, can you tell me a joke?
What's the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know, and I don't care.
Alexa, whose birthday is it today?
Today's famous birthdays include British actor, screenwriter, director, producer and musician Gary Oldman, French Association football player Antoine Griezmann, American film, stage and voice actor Matthew Broderick, Brazilian Association football player Ronaldinho Gaucho, and Slovene philosopher Slavoj Žižek.
Alexa, who is Gary Oldman?
Gary Leonard Oldman is an English actor and filmmaker. Known for his versatility and intense acting style, he has received various accolades, including an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and 3 British Academy Film Awards.
Alexa, what films did Gary Oldman star in?
I know about 82 movies which star Gary Oldman, including Leon, The Professional, The Fifth Element, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Hannibal, and 78 more.
Now, I do believe The Fifth Element has an actress with ginger hair in it. I'm not sure. Alexa, what is The Fifth Element about?
The Fifth Element is a 1997 action movie starring Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, and Gary Oldman. In the colourful future, a cab driver unwittingly becomes the central figure in the search for a legendary cosmic weapon to keep evil and Mr. Zorg at bay. It is 2 hours and 6 minutes long. The movie has a rating of 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb based on around 503,000 votes, and is rated PG.
I remember watching that in Gloucestershire, and I'm sure Mila Jovovich has got orange hair in it. I'm sure she has. I was a lot younger when I watched that. So was Bruce Willis and Gary Oldman when they were starring in it. But my ex-husband used to like a lot of sci-fi films and war films, so I remember The Fifth Element. So guys, Thursday morning. Yesterday was a lovely day. It was a really nice day yesterday. It would have been nice to have actually gone to the seaside, but it didn't work out that way. No, it didn't work out that way. So we ended up in Rochester High Street, but I did have a really exceptional sandwich in Lenny's Cafe in Rochester High Street. It was delicious. It was absolutely jam-packed full of chicken, salad. It tasted lovely. It was very nice indeed. Unlike the Subway I had at Christmas, that meal was absolutely lush. You didn't need anything. I didn't need anything else to eat after that sandwich. It was big and it was full, jam-packed with food. It was well worth what was paid for. Maybe when it gets a bit warmer, I should go to the seaside maybe with Max and just have a wander around the beach or something, because I can't drive unfortunately, but yes, it would have been nice to have just gone by the sea. And but it's not that hot yet, but it did feel hot yesterday. There was people walking around with shorts and t-shirts on, so it must have been quite warm. And it's still only March. So Max had a walk yesterday afternoon, a long walk around the field, and we went round the crane as well. He had his 3 walks, because normally when I go out he only gets 2, but he had 3. Oi! Harry! Harry, no! Wait a minute, guys. It's absolutely, I'm gonna have to replace a load of stuff, especially he's chewed off my Christmas lights. Well, my lights that I use for Halloween, actually, he's chewed those off, so they won't work anymore. He's chewed the end off my Halloween lights. They weren't electric ones, they were battery ones. He's chewed the end off of my lights. I don't think there's anything else he can actually damage that I haven't put out of his way. Never mind, we'll get some more lights. I've got no Christmas lights left, and I've got no Halloween lights. They were hung up. He jumped on my lights were hung up, right out of reach, and he jumps like a flying squirrel. No word of a lie. So he didn't jump on a table or anything. He jumped up and he pulled the lights down and he chewed the end off. He actually like flies. So he'll jump and then he'll grab hold of something and it comes flying down. I've never seen a cat like it. It sounds funny, but the amount of stuff he's broken is unbelievable. He's worse than a naughty kid. He really is. And what with this sky rising council tax bill I had yesterday, I don't know where I'm going to replace anything anyway. I had a word with someone else about that council tax bill I had yesterday. It's risen from £37 a month to 117. How do you find that? How the fuck do you find that? So I've appealed against it and we'll see what happens, but I mean, if it's happened to everybody else, what can you do? There's been a rise in the rent. The rise in the rent is understandable, but leaping from a like a £10-20 increase to 80, that's ridiculous. I'm just glad I didn't open that while I had the company, because I would have got upset with the company that I had. So I opened my mail after my visitor had gone. So today I'm just resting, and just staying at home. My feet are sore, and I'm just going to stay at home and walk Max and just try and relax in my home. I did see my mum briefly yesterday for about 5 or 10 minutes just to check that she was okay, and my mum looked fine to me. She had a neighbour in there with her. My mum had a neighbour in there. I didn't know my mum's neighbour was in there, otherwise I wouldn't have disturbed her, but there you go. I didn't know, did I? Alexa, LBC Radio.
LBC London from Global Player.
Britain and her allies from way before 2014. You know, we remember the use of nerve agent in Salisbury, but yeah, there isn't a day that goes past where there isn't some form of cyber attack or indeed criminal cyber gangs. When your grandmother or my grandmother is a victim of a scam of cyber, it is more often than not likely to come from a Russian cybercrime syndicate sitting in Russia, remarkably well protected from the long arm of the law. And you know, destabilizing, exaggerating division, that's the name of the game if they're not physically attacking. So Russia is the acute threat. But, you know, coming on the horizon, half the world's GDP is growing in the Pacific. There is definite tension building to the United States and China. Towards the end of the decade, I think all the planning by those countries towards some form of, hopefully not hot conflict, but some form of clash is going to grow, and we need to be ready.
What do you take, Ben, from Putin's victory on the weekend?
Well, I think you know, I said earlier in the week, you know, I think the closest living example of a modern day Adolf Hitler we have in this generation is Putin. You know, these elections actually are all about demonstrating power to his own people. You know, I can fix it because I can. And if you remember, he's actually quoted about Navalny, the Russian opposition leader who was clearly murdered in prison in Siberia recently. He mentioned him by name for the first time in 11 years. He did that deliberately. He did that to say to everyone, look what I can do, and there's nothing you can do about it. So he's a despotic, really, totalitarian leader now. Everyone knows that. No one's fooled by his election. And he's very aggressive. So we should recognise that the best way to stop conflict is deterrence. It's, by the way, for your listeners, cheaper than war. We don't want to fight wars. We don't want to send young people to fight. So you invest in your deterrence, and that's hard power and soft power alongside each other.
How much, and there is no measure for this, but how much will this embolden him in Ukraine?
Oh, I think a lot. I mean, in his own mind, you know, he is the new Tsar, blessed by the people of Russia to effectively get back territories that he feels either lost by the West or indeed lost by the Soviet Union. I mean, his rambling essays that he wrote before Ukraine have lots of quotes in it about, you know, even parts of the Czech Republic. I think he thinks he has a right over. Certainly doesn't really recognise most of the Baltic states and even parts of Finland, because that is where the ancient people of Rus, as he quotes, come. So he's dangerous, and I think he's also in legacy mode, which makes him twice as dangerous, which is a sort of, they'll thank me in 100 years. So I don't know what.
So there's no peace in Ukraine unless he falls off a balcony or leaves in a wooden box, is there?
Well, no, I mean, I think he needs to realise that he's got something to lose. And, you know, he's on track to lose 500,000 Russians of his own, dead or injured, by the end of the year. That's horrendous. Now, in any other society, that would probably be curtains. But in his society, where he's covering it up, it doesn't really matter to him. And I'm afraid that, you know, attrition, where he loses more and he loses more tanks and equipment. We've seen a large part of the Black Sea Fleet become submarines overnight. And we need to keep on supporting Ukraine to have a fight until Russia gets it and says, look, the future is not this.
Let's take you to another part of this troubled planet. Will we ever see a ceasefire in Gaza, Ben?
Well, I think that's for all of us the hardest thing. I mean, I think when I left, I predicted that there would be at least, you know, 3 areas of conflict, either hot or cold, and we've now got 2, and that's within a few months. The tragedy is, I think what we see in Gaza and Israel is when you give up on resolve and the West gives up its resolve. In 2000 we got close. The PLO effectively bogged it. They threw the chance then away. The Gulf states had started to get towards very close negotiations with both Palestinians and Israel, literally until a week before this horrendous Hamas terrorist attack. The tragedy is we have to all be internationally resolved, whether it takes 10 years or 100 years to resolve this. And where resolve falters, Afghanistan, Ukraine in 2014, our adversaries, those that don't believe in the rule of law and peace, take hold. So I don't know. It may be that Israel successfully, they're on track if you see what they're doing in Gaza, effectively get rid of the Hamas current leadership. But we know in terrorism and extremism that you've got to also crush the idea and the recruiting sergeants for it if you're going to make sure you have a long-term solution. And I think the jury's out on that part.
One of the other foes I mentioned is China, or the Chinese. Lord Cameron has met with the Chinese. He's made no secret of the fact he thinks we should continue to engage. Is he right?
Yeah, I think we should. Look, China is about to be the biggest military power on earth and the biggest economy on earth. That's just the simple fact. That is something that none of us in our lifetime have really been used to. But also China doesn't have the experience, actually. It's got a large part of its development effectively behind closed doors. And so when it comes to diplomatic engagement and indeed military understanding of each other, so we avoid miscalculation, I think it's really important. I met my Chinese counterpart last year in Singapore. He's no longer my Chinese counterpart. I think he had a different type of leaving party than me. But ultimately, I think the reality is it is really important because often people think that people in the Ministry of Defence, and I often hear it, I've heard it over the years from my colleagues in other departments, the MOD just wants to press buttons and go to war. If you've been a soldier or the Navy or Air Force, actually the last thing you want to actually do is send people to their deaths or go to war. You want to avoid conflict. And most people in the MOD work every single day to avoid escalation or indeed conflict. And we have to invest in that.
Let's come back to matters at home for the last minute or so, Ben. You said in an interview, I believe earlier this week, that it's too late to replace the PM, Rishi Sunak, and Conservatives must march towards the sound of the guns. Mr. Wallace, can I remind you, you are standing down at the next general election. This is like Blackadder. You're the Lord Melchett. Well, you're saying, off you go, lads, and I'm 50 miles back, so enjoying a rather nice claret.
Well, no, not really, because actually...
you're not Martin.
I walked to the sound of the guns when Tony Blair was the leader of the Labour Party and was the Prime Minister, and I won a seat from Labour. I won a marginal seat in 2005. I have been there, done that, got the T-shirt, got the scars. I was a Scottish Conservative in 1999.
Now that is a rarity.
Almost like behind enemy lines, right? So and ultimately, what I'm saying is, first of all, we've seen it all before. You and I have seen the Gordon Brown, Tony Blair years. We've seen fragmentations. Ultimately, in the end, you get to an election year, and all of you as a team have to pull together for your own survival and put your best case forward to the electorate. And there is simply no point chopping and changing a leader at this particular moment in time. It will do no purpose except help the Labour Party.
Realistically, what are their chances at the Conservatives' chances at the locals and the general?
Well, one of the things about stepping down, Nick, is I'm not a pollster and I'm not a predictor. Look, I do think there is a hope for the Conservative Party more than people think, which is falling interest rates. That ultimately the biggest impact on certainly my wallet, I have an interest-only mortgage, was the rising interest rates. Went up and up and up. And I think if we can start seeing interest rates come down, not only will we'll see more money in people's pockets, real money, not small tax cuts, but also we'll see businesses being able to invest in new machinery and products because they'll be able to borrow cheaper, and that will make us more productive. So that's got to be important. And as both the Chancellor and the Prime Minister said, this year the economy is on the up, and we should embrace that and not distract ourselves in the Conservative Party by, regicide again.
A number of senior Conservatives are standing down. Another one announced recently was James Heappey. Of course, we work very closely to remind my listeners he is the Armed Forces Minister. Ben, how much of a loss is Mr. Heappey?
I think he's a great loss. He's a fantastic minister, one of the best ministers in the government. Calm, makes my military record look poxy compared to his. I think he'd done tours in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Northern Ireland. You wouldn't know it. He doesn't wear that on his sleeve. He's a very modest individual, but very, very good at his job. But
you've spoken with him?
Yeah, I have. I spoke to him before and after. I speak to him a lot. He is a good friend. He was an excellent minister. And you only in government get things done when you run as a team. If you're an egotistical Secretary of State and you ignore your ministers, you do so at your peril.
Yeah.
Especially with a department like the MOD, where you've got to bring them all together.
So
work
you
very
blokes
hard.
achieved a lot. Why is he turning it in, do you imagine?
Well, he's been elected a long time. I mean, I think look, modern politics is 24 hours
Yeah,
often,
brutal.
especially as the Minister of the Armed Forces, like me, it was a very operational job. So, when I was Secretary of State, he had lots of responsibilities, lots of diplomacy abroad, but also lots of day-to-day operational involvement, what's going on. And they are effectively the operational minister in the department. So a lot of pressure. He, like me, has got a young family.
Yeah.
And I think he's had time to go, and I don't think it's a judgment on the government. I mean, him like me would both agree we need more money for defence, and it's got to be part of the election issue. But he is not going because he is anything negative. He is a fantastic minister, and I hope afterwards that he will go from strength to strength.
Last line of questioning. That's not a regimental tie you're wearing, is it?
It is. It's the House of the Division tie.
I'm sorry, it's which
Guards tie.
Have you been qualified to wear a Garrick tie? Are you a member of
No,
the
I'm
Garrick?
not a member of the Garrick. I'm not actually, I think, a member of any club at the moment.
What do you make of senior Conservatives who are members of a male-only club, or indeed senior members of the civil service who join because they want to bring about some form of revolution and then decide to quit when it's exposed in The Guardian?
I just wish people would all be left alone. Right? If a whole lot of men want to get together and have a club, it's up to them. I don't. We have this round every few years. I mean, it's the Garrick Club. There are plenty of all-male clubs. There are actually all-female clubs out there, right? I mean, why can't we just leave each other? I mean, I just, I haven't lost any sleep whether the Garrick has men or women. It's not my business. I'm not a member of it. But frankly, I don't think anyone's lesser off it. I work for Ken Clarke. Ken Clarke's a lovely, great politician and a friend and a great man. He's a member of it. It doesn't make him any lesser. He's probably one of the most liberal, progressive Conservatives we ever had. So, for what it's worth, I mean, if people want to do that, let them be free to do it.
When are you coming back to LBC?
Yeah,
What does the future hold?
Well, I'm not sure I can do your job, Nick. I tried that once.
There are plenty of exciting things now you step down.
Yeah. I mean,
Get your life back.
Get my life back, enjoy it. I always keep one eye open on politics. I think it's important that we recognise defence.
You're still writing in the Telegraph. I'm reading.
Yeah. Occasionally I do write on that. I do that. I mean, I think it's important we understand defence is not a discretionary issue. It's not like, we'll fund education and health, and if there's a bit of money left over, we'll put it for defence. Securing this country is the most important thing we can do before anything else. You don't get any health or education or economic growth unless you're secure and stable, and it works that way.
Great having you here. Thanks ever so much. Ben Wallace, former Defence Secretary, appearing here on LBC. 8:49 news headlines. Thomas Watts.
The government's efforts to push ahead with the Rwanda policy have been delayed until the middle of next month. Rishi Sunak's dismissed reports of Tory plots to oust him as Westminster gossip. The mother of a British woman last seen in the Caribbean is calling for help from the Foreign Secretary. LBC weather, dry and bright for many parts of the UK, a high of 16 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise to the Dartford Tunnel from junction 3 for the M20 after an accident earlier, so all the lanes are open now. There are queues on the A1M northbound. There's one lane closed because of emergency repairs between junction 6 for Welling Garden City and junction 7 for Stevenage South. The Rotherhithe Tunnel is closed both ways. A car's broken down, so there are delays. In Hither Green, Staplehurst Road is closed both ways because of a police investigation between Manor Park and Chiltonian Mews. There are long delays on the A4 coming into town from the Chiswick roundabout to Earls Court. That's because of the roadworks just past the Hammersmith flyover. And on the tube, there's no service on the Bakerloo line between Stonebridge Park and Harrow and Wealdstone. That's because of some problems with the signals.
This is LBC.
Right, guys, I'm going to have a coffee and relax and just keep carrying on. See you later.